Today we celebrate the memorial or feast day of Saint Therese of Lisieux, the little flower as she was commonly known and is still today. This Carmelite nun who lived in obscurity really, and only to the age of 24, she died of tuberculosis at the end of the 19th century and was canonized in the 20th century. I would say she's the greatest saint to be canonized in the 20th century and remains to this day one of the great modern saints of our era. And she was an amazing woman, a woman of great humility, great faith, great love for Jesus and our Blessed Mother Mary. She entered the Carmel at the age of 15 with just a passionate zeal to become a Carmelite. A couple of her sisters had already entered. And she lived for 9 years as a Carmelite sister and rose to great heights of sanctity, but in a very hidden way. A very hidden way. She, even among her own sisters, was not fully recognized to be of such high stature of holiness till after her death. And then, of course, her fame spread very, very quickly throughout the church, and by the 1900s, early 1900s and the 1920s when she was canonized, she was world famous, and the Carmel was receiving thousands and thousands of letters a year and testimonies of great miracles and signs and wonders and conversions and healings that were happening through her powerful intercession. And she had actually prophesied that before she died. She said, "I'm going to spend my heaven doing good on earth and showering down roses," and that's why she's often associated with roses. And again, what was her spirituality that made actually Pope John Paul II declare her to be a doctor of the church, one of only a few dozen men and women throughout history whose spiritual teaching is considered to be of such high stature that they're made doctors of the church. And here St. Therese, she never even completed high school for that matter. But her spiritual doctrine is at once both extremely simple and yet deeply profound. She called it the way of spiritual childhood. And it was basically based on the notion that we find in the Gospels where Jesus says, unless you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Just to think of that, there's no grown-ups in heaven, only little children, spiritually speaking. Not childish in that immature way, but childlike in simplicity, in living out a dependency. I think that's what she realized, that to be a little child, meaning like an infant who has to be carried and cared for and fed and all of that, is to recognize our complete dependency upon God and then to live that out moment to moment instead of trying to do it ourselves and take control of our lives and be in charge, which is really what the opposite of that littleness is all about. It really is rooted in the sin of pride. Remember, Jesus reminds us in the Gospel of John that I am the vine, you are the branches. Abide in me as I abide in you, for apart from me, you can do nothing. We can do nothing. To realize our littleness, our utter dependency upon God, but then to live that out with great confidence in God. So it's a humility that doesn't kind of put ourselves down, but really it's a humility linked with great faith and confidence that God is our gracious and heavenly Father, and that through Jesus, He's going to provide for us. He's going to care for us. He's going to meet our needs. And yes, we have to strive with our weak littleness to do our best, but then God will provide the grace we need. It's really His having confidence in Him and therefore living moment to moment, doing little things well for God's glory, learning to love in the little things of life and the simplicity of our daily walk. This is what St. Therese taught in her little way, infusing all our actions with great love, but with great humility and great dependence upon the grace of God. So brothers and sisters, as we celebrate her memorial today, I just encourage all of you, if you haven't learned or read more about St. Therese, to read her her spiritual journal, Story of His Soul, which is one of the great spiritual classics, and I believe will truly inspire you with great love for Jesus and great surrender and dependence upon Him as little children.